Marketer of the Day, number 482. Discover your aha moment and market your book to generate consistent leads with Mitchell Levy. Hey everyone, we're so glad you're listening to us today. We're talking with Mitchell Levy, and Mitch is the AHA guy at AHAthat, and he's a people publisher, and he empowers thought leaders to share their genius. And he's going to talk to us about his platform, his ideas, what he has going on. So Mitch, glad to be talking to you.
Oh, it is. It's great to be here. Thanks for reading the intro so well.
I just do my best here. Practice makes perfect. So can you let us in on what you're all about and what sorts of things have you fired up these days?
I have always been about empowering or powering other people to be successful, right? It's always about how can somebody move from one side of the road to the other, or what sort of framework that can have to be different. Last time I worked for a company was in 1997. I was working for Sun Microsystems, and I left there to start a e-commerce management consulting firm, helping companies figure out how to do something with this new technology coming about, which was the internet, and how do we streamline operations and sell product directly and be able to manufacture and drop ship directly to customers. Some of these were foreign concepts back then. And what I've been doing since then is providing tools and tool sets that can help people be successful. And here's where we are today. I've got 4 book publishing companies. We've published over 800 titles. I've created a platform that would allow anyone to write their books in 8 hours or less. And my big aha moment in 2017 was the fact that most of the world that I'm going after, I used to always go after the people who would write the books themselves, the DIY world. And as it turns out, my audience is the do-it-for-you audience. It's the audience that, listen, if you're going to be really successful at what you're going to do, the best thing you could do is have somebody do the stuff for you that's not as relevant, so that you could focus on the stuff that's very relevant, very powerful. And so that's what we're crafting and changing all our messaging, changing our price points, updating the websites, the funnels, so that what we're focused on, and this is the really cool part, we do a 2-hour interview with you, and then we ghostwrite your book and turn it into a number of different platforms and products. And at the same time, you're getting strategic thoughts on who you are and what you do and where you go. And you get a couple quarters of social media content. And so to me, where I sit today, and also at the end of last year, I did a TED Talk, which is about to come out. And so I've got a TED Talk and a platform that solves problems. We've got at the moment a little over 700,000 users. We've got 42,000 pieces of content, aha messages people could share for free. And what I want to do, actually, honestly, Robert, I want to find guys like you who say, holy cow, or depending on how cool, holy cow or holy shit, this is amazing. Let's figure out how we could work together, because my clients need all the stuff that sits around a book, because a book is only a piece of the bigger picture.
Right, I agree completely, and there's all kinds of fun stuff to unpack in there. And I mean, what I like the best is where you ended it there, right? Where the book is just the beginning, and a lot of people I think have this problem where they think that the finish line is when the thing they're creating is done, right? They're like, oh, as soon as I have the website done, I'll be good. It's like, no, once the website's done, now you have to go market it, right? As soon as I have the book written, it'll be done. Well, no, that's like day one when the book is done. And so, and also there's that whole aspect of, back in the day, we didn't have everything figured out. Things were super difficult. We had to walk uphill in the e-commerce snow both ways. And now we have all this technology available, but then now it's like, there's so many choices, we're not really sure what to do. And so if I'm hearing you right in there, it sounded like that it makes a lot more sense, instead of trying to do it yourself and however many years that takes to learn and figure out, it makes more sense to grab someone else's system, or even better, hire someone out to do the messy stuff, to figure out how to spell check the book, format the book, add graphics to the book, and then us people out there, we should just focus on what makes us great, focus on our ideas, right?
Well, so the answer to that question is yes, but not just about your book, right? So we in our do it for you service, we do all of that for you. That's the easy part. But we're also talking about how do you use your book? And by the way, I agree with you. The When your book is done, when your website is done, when your funnel is done, any of this stuff, that's only 10% of the success. The 90% is what you do with it once you've got an asset that's done. Okay. And so for me, it's not just the book. How do you create the funnel? How do you create the lead generation components? How do you create all the elements that are going to attract the people? Who are your clients? Who are you going after? How do you reach them? How do they convince they should talk to you? Do you need to talk to them or you can do it automatically? What other products do you have? Almost all of that. There's a software package or a service or somebody out there that could help you. You could pay from almost nothing to large amount of dollars. So that's what's happening today is we've got this technology and we've got so many people out there with different approaches. So what it comes down to is, do you like a Robert Plank? Okay, great. Let's work with Robert. Do you like a Mitchell Levy? Great. Let's work with Mitchell. What it comes down to, and this is what I talked about in my TED talk that I wrapped up, is you do business with those that you know, like, or trust. So if you know, like, or trust somebody and they could solve a problem for you, let them solve your problem. Because today what that means is they're going to help you understand and do something that's best for you. And then you focus on the core element of what you deliver, i.e. the stuff you like and makes you money.
That makes perfect sense to me. So, so you're saying look around and find someone that you know, like, and trust, so that way you can have them figure all that out for you. But how do we find that person? You know, how do we find the right mentor? How do we know that we're not, you know, just buying this and buying that course and buying this service and just like piling things on? How do we find the person that's right for us?
Dude, that's such a perfect question. So I'll tell you what the answer will be a couple years from now when somebody solves this issue, and I'll tell you what the answer is now. Okay, and the answer now is we gotta experiment and play. The answer a couple years from now, what's missing today in the world, I use the word Yelp as a verb, is you have Yelp scores. I mean, when's the last time you went to a restaurant or went to a town and stayed at a hotel where you didn't look at the reviews of other people? So if you don't know, like, or trust somebody, you look at people who are like you or you think are like you and you look at their reviews. Well, at some point in time, Robert, when you originally sent me this email and saying, hey, you heard me at John on the End of Fire podcast, you want to have me on the show, before I even interact with you, I'm going to see a personalized Yelp score that is how Robert Plank has dealt with people who are just like me. Right. And potentially, since this was a couple months ago, the Yelp score may have also incorporated, oh, by the way, he likes playing with people like you. I might have reached out ahead of time and had the conversation we're having now, even before we get on the air. Right. So what's going to happen is we'll end up having a personalized Yelp score that is for each person that's relevant to those people that you're interested in interacting with. Right. So that's where we're going. So, by the way, imagine walking into a conference and having wearing something like some set of glasses where you're actually seeing the Yelp score of people who could be prospects or people who could be partners over everyone's head, and that helps you decide who to go to. That's kind of cool.
Now it's getting into like Black Mirror stuff, right?
But yes, but let's talk about where we are today. What do? You talk to friends. You talk to friends. You run experiments. Sometimes experiments cost money, and sometimes you do them because you want to. It makes sense to play with people on both sides, right? I have a particular asset, so my asset is we'll do the interview, we'll do strategy, we'll create a book for you that will help solve the problem. For me, it's never about selling just one book. It's about having that as an asset that is then used to drive business for years, not just that book, but the incremental versions of the book that are tailored to the individual clients you're going after. So I want the bigger picture. I just don't want to do one. So I have an asset when I'm looking at partners. I have things I could trade. Sometimes we buy each other's services because it makes sense to try that. I'd say in today's world, the absolute best way to determine if somebody is and I'm putting up, for those that could see me, I have my double fingers up, for somebody to be a partner. By the way, whether or not you're hiring somebody to do work for you or you're interacting with somebody to do work going forward for a while. If you can't use the word partner, you may want to consider not playing with them. So the best way you can do that for me is I find a joint client we want to work with. Because at some time during whatever engagement you have with a client, shit's going to hit the fan. And when the shit hits the fan, what you're going to figure out is how does the partner you're working with interact with the client? Because and do they represent themselves? Are you comfortable being represented that person who's representing you as part of that engagement? And most of the time, by the time I get to the point where we're working with a client and I'm partnered with somebody, and I've probably done at least 400 of these. Most of the time, I get it right. I did get one wrong, which was really shocking to me. And so what you have to do is recognize you need to get into a real world scenario where stuff does go wrong and figure out if the person you're working with is somebody you want to continue to hang out with. Because maybe, Robert, in the old days, we would say, he or she is the only game in town. We have no choice. In today's world, no, we want to do business with those that we know, like, and trust.
Right. So did I hear you right that so this idea of like a joint client, so that way you partner, like if you have your own skill set, you partner with someone else who has like some skill set, like say like WordPress or something, and then you together help out that client. Is that what you're
Oh,
explaining here?
absolutely. So let's talk about you and I, right? Looking at some of the stuff you've done in the past, right? Let's say we found a client and they need a website, they need a landing page, they need the funnel in place, and they need a ongoing webinar program created. Well, that's all stuff you've done in the past. You could build all that for them. What we would do in terms of helping to establish credibility, have a lead magnet up front, is create a AHA book and a physical book that they could use. And depending on the level of services and the amount of money that client has, some of the work that needs to get done, you may do. Some of it might be another partner that I'm working with. But basically, we find a client, and it's the end goal is not, okay, you're going to have a book. The end goal is you're going to have a marketing platform in place that generates business for you, right? In which case, I don't want to be my firm. I don't want to be the end all solution. I want to work with partners who have expertise, who could solve different areas of technology that are relevant for them, different areas of the world that they could stay on top of. Because I know my area down. I know it really well. I know what works and what doesn't work and why one should write a book and how to use it and how to attract clients with it. What I'd like to have is more people who are building the other components. The answer is yes.
Okay,
So the
and
question is, what do you do today that you and I should work on together?
I don't know. You tell me, but I do like that. I do like that idea of like you have your certain areas of skills and I have my skills, and sometimes it's tempting to like be like territorial about a client and be like, oh well, I'll have to learn these other things or try to fudge my way through these services in order to keep that client. Or even worse, maybe the client, maybe they work with you on something, then have some other coach on something else, and you people don't talk to each other, and there's a clash. So this seems like this solves a lot of problems all in one swoop with this technique.
Well, it is the way we will be working together in the future. Many of us do that today, and it comes down to do you work for what is a corporation, and do you work for a corporation, and what does that really mean? And today you could point out so many firms that have 5 or 10 employees or 5 to 10 loosely connected contractors that are driving 5 to 10 million a year in business. Well, what does that mean? There's a group of people that you get together to solve a set of problems. There's another set or group of people you get together to solve another set of problems. And so, yeah, to me, I think what that really means is looking back at the equation. And the equation is, when does money transfer hands? And it transfers hands in the old days. It was when somebody who needed a service, when they realized that they could go to a vendor and pay them money and hopefully get the service. Okay. In today's world, what happens is that client is no longer really hoping that they get a service. What they're doing is they're investing in a solution. And the solution is not just from a single person. Now, it could be from an individual company, but how cool would it be if it's three or four different companies that have come together, each with a unique set of skills? And what you're buying into is you're buying into people who have grown and are successful at what they do and do one potentially and only one thing well. So you're getting their expertise, their core competence, their thought leadership on an issue. But if their issue isn't completely everything you need, they've already found the other people they like working with to help solve your problem.
Yeah, I like that a lot. It's a lot more mobile than the way things used to be done, and not mobile in like the cell phone sort of sense, but in the mobile in the sense that like you can kind of tack on all these different pieces from different peoples, and you're not just confined to whoever's closest to you. So one thing that I'm curious about, you mentioned a couple of times that you have this platform that allows people to create an AHA book. So can you tell me about that so that I can better understand you and your business?
Absolutely. So the platform is AHAthat.com. At the moment, there are over 700,000 users, and we have 42,000 quotes to share on social media. So if you are interested in sharing content on social and sharing and building your community because you want to share good, compelling content, I've got 42,000 quotes you could find today, and it platform is free to use, free to share, because what you're doing is you're sharing content from authors who have written their AHA books. If you go to the URL ahathat.com/author, we have a 3-step writing process if you decide to write your own AHA book. And we've had over 300 authors write their books in 8 hours or less. And as I mentioned before, what I like as the go-to-market strategy, who my true client is in 2018, and we've done so many of them in 2017 that this has been proven true, is the person who says, listen, I'm an expert in this area. I don't exactly know how to do it, or I know exactly what to do, but I don't have the time for writing. We'll do a 2-hour interview. We'll pull the genius out of your head. We will then create an AHA book with 140 bite-sized quotes. That AHA book sits in the platform. So now you add to the 42,000 quotes that are available for the 700,000 people to share. And if you decide that you want it in paperback, hardcover, PDF, Kindle versions, we do that as well. So all of a sudden, you've spent 2 hours and then a little bit of review time after that. You spent 2 hours having the genius pulled out of your head, and you've got a book that is easily shareable on social media. It's easy to share on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Google+. You've got a PDF that you use for top-of-funnel lead gen. You've got a Kindle, which you could easily now go and create Amazon best-selling campaigns. And we help with all of that. Paperback and hardcover, which is really, you want to establish credibility, and you're in the consulting world. You hand somebody a hardcover book. Here, let me let you hear what that sounds like. Just imagine how much volume, how much excellent knowledge is in that book. That's a hardcover book that we actually ghost wrote for somebody else.
That is super cool, and taking all the guesswork out of it for someone and taking all the labor out of it. They just show up for 2 hours and you get their genius extracted. And I imagine that somebody might be thinking, oh geez, 2 hours, I'm not sure if I can even talk for 2 hours, or do I need to study? So what would you say if someone heard this 2-hour concept and they're like, I don't know if I can swing that? What would you say to reassure someone like that?
So here's what so first of all, it's surprisingly easier than you think. And what I'll also tell you, based on dozens of people who have gone through this process, you will get insight into what's going on. But let me tell you what to do. Go to ahathat.com/author. We have a 3-step process. The first step is a Word document. And there, just answer questions. What's your name? What's your bio? What's the title of your book in a 1-paragraph summary? But here's the most important question, and here's what we'll talk about for 2 hours. How the question reads is, who is the reader and what are their expectations from the book? What the question really says, who is your prospect and what are their pain points? So we spend 2 hours talking about your prospects' pain points and things you do about solving their issues. we talk about if you're talking to them and they have objections, what are the objections they come up with? And then what responses do you actually give? So, what we're really doing, and here's probably the best way to think about it, is who are the people who you're serving today? And what is important about who you are and what you do that helps serve them? And if you title your book with the title of your prospects' pain points, this is one more thing from a marketing perspective. What happens when somebody goes to Google and says, hey, I'm having a problem with? Well, if you happen to be the expert who your book has that title in it, who do they think could help solve their problem? You.
Awesome. And it's almost too simple, right? It's like a lot of people seem to want to make things too complicated than they have to be and pontificate about concepts and principles and ideas. And so what you're saying is to make it more of a marketing thing, make it more of like not quite a sales letter, but in a little way, in a way, it sort of is a sales letter, right? You start with that prospect's pain and what they're going through, and think about objections and ways to get around that. And I mean that's genius because it prevents writer's block, right? If someone's a weight loss coach or a mindset coach or productivity coach or whatever they are, and it's hard to be like, oh, what are my ideas? But it's easy to say, oh yeah, I helped that one person, or I've helped these people, and like the most common problem is all this stuff, and then the easiest way to jump in and get started is all this stuff. And so it makes perfect sense, and that's great for not only overcoming the writer's block, but as you kind of alluded to there, it lines right there up with the marketing, right? The book itself pre-sells in a way for maybe other stuff that you offer. And if someone is trying to find the book in the first place, if the book's all about the stuff it solves, then there you go, easy stuff, right? If they have that problem, they do a search and matches the title of the book. I mean, makes perfect sense.
and you said this, and I know it's kind of funny. It sounds too easy. And so let me just say, just because something's easy doesn't mean it's not sophisticated, complicated, and valuable. Okay? It doesn't mean that it doesn't add value to your life. Easy just means that it's one less thing for you to worry about, because what you should be thinking about. So let's just assume this. Let's assume you can snap your fingers. Wait, let me snap my fingers better. There we go. Let's assume you can snap your fingers and have a book. Okay. Any book you want. So the question is, okay, now that you snap your fingers and you have a book, somebody just remarkably created one for you. What do you do with it? Well, if you're not worried about what you're writing inside your book and all that, what you're really doing is you're figuring out how are you going to get this book into the hands of the people who need to hire you. And what happens is nobody's going to hire you just because you have a book, although that has happened, okay? But what's going to happen is it opens up the door for you to have that conversation. I mean, if you're a consultant, typically they're going to need to see you, know, like, and trust you. If you're running and selling products, the book is just a complementary component that adds the credibility that's necessary for people to say, oh, maybe this product does make sense, right? So it comes down to simple is not bad. Simple actually is elegant because it allows you to focus on what's important. And what's important is, and this is where it gets interesting, having a guy like you or having people who could do funnels or lead gens or websites that are attracting business and webinars that work with Webinar Jam and other tools. The thing that's interesting is somebody else does that really well. So you can now fill that with new people in the audience. Now what you're doing is ultimately at the end of the day, you're getting more closure. And you get more closure of clients. They're going to need to talk to you. They need to feel you. And once they do that, they then can become your clients. And that's really the goal. It's not all this other stuff that you have to wade through. It's about how can you have more fun doing what you do and make good money at it.
That sounds good to me. And you don't get any points for working too hard on something, right? I mean, imagine if, making a book took 10 times as long, or imagine if making a PowerPoint presentation was super difficult. You don't get points for that. If anything, you have limited amount of time every day. So if you take too long on that book or that website or whatever it is, all that you have to show for it is you've covered less ground than maybe some of your other competitors who they've taken shortcuts or they've taken the easy way out or they hired a team. So, I mean, yeah, like just
Now,
because it was work for you doesn't mean that it gets you any further, right?
that's a beautiful aha moment. That's really, so one of the things I'll say is I run four of the book publishing companies. We've published over 800 titles. One of the titles that I have is one that took the authors 3 years to write. It is over 100,000 words. Now they pick up 6 and 7 figure consulting engagements with that title. They need that for what they do because it's a very engineering focused book and approach. We also publish all the books for Synopsys, which is a $1.5 billion EDA firm. There's a place where you need to spend 1,000 hours for a book. Now, the thing that's interesting is if you can get away with spending a couple hours or 8 hours, and it still has the concept of a book, and i.e. you've gained, and here's what I like to say, you've gained a PhD by having a book, i.e. you're the expert in an area that solves a pain point for a client. Why would you want to spend more time than you need to? And what it comes down to, who are your clients? What do they need to see to get credibility about you, to understand that you're somebody who could help them?
Perfect. So in a way, reverse engineer who you want to read your book and get value from your book and make the exact book that they would need. So as we're winding things down here, so we've talked a lot about having a book and using your great platform to make a book. What other things need to be in place, like you alluded to a little bit there? Like after someone creates the book and the 2-hour interview with your system, then where do they go? Then what do they do?
So this is now we're talking about block and tackle marketing, and really it comes down to who you are, what you do, and what clients you serve. There are some examples of people who really want to be invisible and don't want to be in social media, and I could actually agree that that's true with some people who have purposely remained behind the scenes. That said, the majority of the world today needs to be just like in the old days. You needed a fax machine. Oh, that's too bad. I should have turned my phone off before.
Well,
So
in a way, it was perfect timing, right? Because you're talking about fax machines and being on social media, and your phone goes off. Perfect.
that was beautiful, and it's the Kill Bill whistle. So there was a time where you needed a fax machine to do business. There was a time where people argued about whether or not they'd have a website. There was a time which, and you can go through whether or not somebody needed blog posts, whether or not somebody needed to do webinars, right? There's always a time of what is the next best technology you need. There are still people out there, and there's a larger percentage, I think it's more than 50%, who really don't take social media seriously. And so here's why. And this is so when my TED Talk comes out, you'll be able to see I gave a example there on how to do social media in 5 minutes a day. Social media is 2 words. It's social plus media. And you've got to be social with those that are potentially going to be your clients because they want to know, like, and trust you. And so you need to have enough of the components in place so that if somebody hears your name and they Google you, that it comes up with something that says, aha, this person is fascinating. Whether it's a simple web page that's a blog site, which is what you're using, Robert, whether it's having good social media profiles in a couple different locations, whatever it is, wherever your prospects hang out, you need to have enough there that shows that you understand at least that platform, and they could quickly, before talking with you, understand who you are and even make a decision that they want to communicate with you.
Okay, so if our prospects are doing Google searches, if they're hanging out somewhere on Facebook or Twitter, figure out where the prospects are hanging out, figure out what it is that they need, and put enough of your stuff in front of them. That way, that'll catch them and they can find you and they'll discover you in your book and everything else about you.
So yes, and I'll add one more thing. What happens if one of their friends said, "Oh, you got to check out Mitchell Levy," or "You got to check out Robert Plank"? What are they going to do? They're going to Google it, or they're going to look for it on Facebook or wherever they hang out. And if you have an anemic presence wherever they reach, they may not get any further.
So what should we be doing? Should we be dedicating time every day for social media, focusing on the content marketing, all the above? How do we make sure that wherever we're marketing our stuff, we don't have that anemia problem?
So I would say let's go back to what you said before. Let's reverse engineer. Who are your clients? Where do they hang out? Right? If you're dealing with business clients, well, you need to have a really robust LinkedIn profile, right? So spend a couple hours, watch a bunch of, if you're a DIY person, if you're a DIY person, I'll tell you the answer. If you're a DIFY, there's so many people that can help you with your LinkedIn profile and what you do there and how to post articles on LinkedIn. It's very easy to create something that's compelling enough that you can grab people. If you're a DIY guy, go to YouTube, type in how to create a great LinkedIn profile and watch a couple hours worth of videos, and you could then end up doing it yourself. If your folks are on Instagram or Facebook or wherever it is that they are, what you want to then do is either hire somebody who's an expert in that area so that you could just say, hey, listen, here are my clients. Who are they going after? How do I make sure that I look at least good enough that they want to continue following through with me? And so it's that reverse engineering component of making sure. In the old days, it was very simple. All you had to do is buy a listing in the yellow page, and your choice was how much money you spend for how big of a listing. Nowadays, you've got to figure out a little bit more where do your clients and prospects play, and how do you make sure that when they see you, they see somebody that they're not embarrassed to say, hey, I've hired this person or I've hired this firm.
Interesting. Okay, so what I'm hearing a lot from you today, and I'm trying to wind things down here, but we're having a good conversation. But what I'm hearing from you a lot today is that what's more important is the outcome or the results and running these experiments, and that we shouldn't get so caught up on the how to and the step by step. Like, don't let something silly as getting this web page to look just right or getting this LinkedIn profile to have these things. Don't let something like that hold us up. If we look at the places our prospects hang out, we know that, say, we need a LinkedIn profile or a good LinkedIn presence, then just go on YouTube and find some videos on it. So that way we don't get held up on trying to figure it out ourselves, or even better, hire someone else to do it. So that way it's good enough, and it's never going to be perfect. And it's never going to be exactly the way that we want to have it with every little thing in place. But it's more important to have something rather than nothing, and not let all the minutia get in the way, right?
Robert, great summary. Yes.
Well, thanks. I do my best. So I want to make sure that people listen to our conversation. They want to know what to do, where to go next, and if that means using your platform, if that means hiring you and your team to get what they need, whatever it is. Can you tell us about your website, your offerings, where you want people to go after listening to our conversation today?
Absolutely. So at the very minimal, you need to be sharing content on social media, and this one is great for me to offer because it's our platform. It's AHAthat.com. You could use this as a guest, or you avoid the annoying guest messages if you register. There's no cost to register, and then you have access to all of our authors' content. So you have access to thought leaders from around the world, and you could share content on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, Google Plus for free. And at the moment, there's over 42,000 pieces of content. And so I'd say that's an easy thing to do. And there's no reason anyone shouldn't start doing that tomorrow. Now, well, I want to say today, but we'll just say whenever you hear this, start it tomorrow. Put it on the list of things that are going to absolutely get done. And even if it's just a couple minutes a day, just share content. What happens is your audience will start growing if you start sharing content they're interested in. So find content on the AHAthat platform you can do. The thing I'd say next is the important element of today's world is people need to know, like, and trust you. The like and trust they get over time, they could, whether it's reviews or other things, how do they get to know you? Well, you need to be seen as the expert of what you do. Now, how do you be seen? And there's many different ways to do that. The best way on the marketplace to be seen as an expert is to write a book. So here's the thing. You could write yourself. Go to ahathat.com/author. Take a look at our 3-step process. You could spend the 8 hours writing it yourself. And I heard a statistic. I don't know if I have enough on my side. Actually, I can give the statistic on my side. I heard a statistic that only 4% of people who say they're going to do something actually do it. I could actually give a statistic. In my case, empirical evidence will show that 15% will actually do it. So what I'd say is you can go to ahathat.com/author, follow the links to our Be Seen packages, where we actually ghostwrite the book for you. And so if you have an idea and you have an audience that you're going after and you want that perfect vehicle that, by the way, it's not the be all end all, but you now establish yourself as the expert by having a book, you still need to make sure people know about your book. They see you as the expert. You update your profiles with all that content. Once again, you can go to ahathat.com/author, or if you just want to go directly to our page where you see our prices, I'll give you a URL. It's aha.pub, aha.pub/be seen packages. All one word, aha.pub/be seen packages. And you'll see our prices, you see our price points, you see what we do. And what I'd like you to think about is snapping your fingers and having your book. That's what we do. And now think about what else are you going to do if you're speaking at an event and you want to have all the people at the event have a copy of your book. Man, that's the coolest thing in the world for marketing. And what's really fascinating, you could even find a sponsor to pay you for that if you know the right people who are going to be excited about you being in front of that audience. There are many different ways to market these days. And what you can do is now find, and we're one of those solutions, you could find solutions to solve problems. We absolutely solve that book publishing/social media issue of having content to share.
Well, great stuff. I love it. I love the concept, and I love how you've made things simple for us. And I mean, yeah, just what I keep hearing from our conversation here is that if you're a problem solver, it takes a lot of the pressure off because you know what to write, and then a lot of the focus isn't on you anymore, right? It's not like everyone's depending on you and how much of a genius you are. It's, are my problems solved or not? And they don't have to be solved in a super crazy advanced way with a lot of buzzwords and acronyms and goofy things. It's just keeping it simple. Are my problems solved or not? And then, like you said, either the number is only 4% or the number is 15%. But either way, if you're trying to go about this on your own, alone, without a team, without a support system, just based on willpower, just based on, I want to do this, hopefully I'll do it, your chances are either 4% or 15%, so not very good odds. So let's bump up those odds and get things done quickly by going to AHAthat.com to check out that platform to see how you can have all of these great shareables to share on social media. AHAthat.com/author to check out those Be Seen packages, and the direct link aha.pub/Be Seen packages. So that way you can get the book done, you can get excited about the possibilities, and now open all the doors that having a book comes along with, as opposed to all those other people out there who are still struggling, who maybe they've been struggling for the past 5, 10 years, even longer, just thinking about, oh, I've got 5 pages written. Maybe I've got 195 pages to go. That's the old school way to do it. Who wants to do that? Nobody. So we'll see you over at AHAthat.com. And I want to thank you, Mitch, for stopping by and sharing some of these great stories, these great insights, everything that came with it. I love it. So thank you for coming by and sharing that.
Robert, you're awesome. Thanks for the interview and your enthusiasm. And my offer's still open. Let's find a place to play together.
Have you heard of Google? How about Google Calendar, Google Drive, or Gmail? Do you struggle mastering these powerful but sometimes scary technologies? Our new book, The Checklist Mindset, makes it simple. It's the next best thing to hiring a full-time virtual assistant. Claim your copy of our book on Kindle at www.checklistmindset.com.